Two guys, one movie. Death, death, death.
In 3D.
Hey, this is Steve Arviso for Two Guys, One Movie, obviously.
And what movie are we going to be reviewing today?
Well, Charles Musick. Mr. I don't like to introduce myself.
They know who I am.
They should know who you are.
Everybody knows who I am.
That guy doesn't like to wear pants out in public. I like it.
I miss long shorts. But that's another podcast.
Oh, but this is Two Guys, One Movie, and we are here with the next entry in our countdown to Halloween, Brainscan.
Which is a comedy horror film, but it was a favorite of mine when I was younger, and I still like it, and I had to make Steven watch it, and this was an excuse to get him to watch it.
Very interesting movie, Brainscan. Comedy horror, like you said, and the interesting part is that it's neither funny nor scary.
I laughed, I cried, I enjoyed it.
I laughed, I cried, and then I cried some more.
That you paid to watch it?
You're the only asshole who's ever charged me to go into his house to watch a movie.
You know it.
No, but this is a movie starring Edward Furlong and nobody else. Oh, Frank Langella. I'm sorry.
Nobody else?
No. Well, it's weird. Edward Furlong got top billing over Frank Langella.
Well, this was Edward Furlong after
Terminator 2. Yeah, but this is also Frank Langella after everything Frank Langella had been Frank Langella in.
Yeah, but I mean, Frank Langella was still doing these, like, random type of movies too. I mean, he's never been one that, he's a great actor, but he's never been one that seems to, hold out and be like, no, I'm not doing that, that's beneath me or anything. He does movies that are,
That's true, he did He-Man.
Well, there you go.
Oh, sorry, Masters of the Universe. He didn't do the cartoon, he did the movie.
But this movie also has Amy Hargreaves, I think I'm saying her name right? Hargreaves. Yes, but you would know her from, like, Homeland, and other TV shows like that.
Like Homeland.
Homeland, yes. Law and Order.
Yeah, she was in 3 episodes of Law and Order, so if you paid attention really closely to that series, and specifically SVU.
But, overall, since you just watched the film, what was your initial, coming right out of it, what's your reaction?
I really didn't think of I didn't know what to think about the movie until the very end, and then I just hated it. The movie just made me hate it at the end, and that's just because of the ending, which is the worst ending you could give to any TV show or movie. And I'm not going to spoil it here, what happens, because everyone else must be as upset and angry as I am.
You kind of predicted the ending, although I wouldn't confirm that it was the ending.
It's true. I threw out several endings, to be fair, though. But, it was an interesting movie. I like the concept. For those who don't know, it is about a kid who, and I don't know why this matters, because it has absolutely no bearing on the film at all, but this is 15-year-old Edward Furlong as a kid whose mother died in a car accident that he was a part of. He apparently fractured his leg really badly, so he limps through the whole movie for some reason. It has no effect on the plot or anything. It kind of
sets the feature that he's in, why he's kind of the way he is, it seems, I guess.
He's a dick? That
he's into gore and all that stuff.
I love horror films, and I wasn't in a horrible car crash where my mother died.
I don't know.
He didn't turn into Batman. He just became kind of a dick. A weird dick with one friend. I don't know. But he's in a car accident at the very beginning of the film. As a young boy, his mother dies in the accident. Apparently, he's traumatized and limping like Igor from Young Frankenstein throughout the whole film for absolutely no other reason than just because. And his dad's away on work the whole time, so he has this thing he has a hard-on for horror films. He watches them at school as part of a horror club, and then he gets a game in the mail. Or no, his friend tells him about this game in a he sees it in an ad in Fangoria, because Fangoria really had to get the advertising out at this point. This is like 1995, 94. And apparently Fangoria was really hard hit for numbers, and they needed to promote in this horrible movie. But the best friend tells him about this game. He calls the number to order the game or to discuss the game or something like that. I really don't get what 1995 computer game ordering was. I was 94, whatever. Either way, I was what? It's
a whole year difference.
I was like 9 years old. I don't understand. Back then, I didn't understand how this shit worked. Apparently, you call a number in a magazine to get a computer game, and then they talk to you on the phone, and they mail it to you the next fucking day. Either way, game, put it in, he becomes a killer, he gets to play the role of a killer, and he has seizures because there's flashing lights and shit, and he doesn't remember what happened. It's a fucking weird-ass movie.
Basically, the way I describe it to people is, Edward Furlong, this kid gets this video game that he's going around murdering people in the game, but it seems to be happening, and when he comes out of the game, it seems to be real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot of one of those movies where they kind of distort, like, reality and what's not real and what is real.
Except everything's supposed to be real.
And then, of course, the spin of, there's this, I mean, it's pretty serious up until the trickster, this character shows up, who, as I said, reminds me a lot of Howie Mandel from Little Monsters.
Yeah, I mean, it played out pretty straight. It was straightforward. It played itself very straight up until this demonic character shows up out of the video game for reasons. I mean, at that point, up until that point, it seemed like kind of a serious film with a really cheesy premise. It seemed like it could have been, like an episode of Tales from the Crypt or something like that. We'd mentioned we recently mentioned that in another podcast, how these premises for Tales from the Crypt really worked very well from comic book to TV show, but as a full-fledged movie, not so much.
And I mean, I could see where if you watched, like, you just saw it for the first time and you're saying you didn't really like it was cheesy. In 94, I was 10, and I watched it when it came out.
I like cheesy. I mean, I love Tales from the Crypt. We discussed this before. This just seemed...
I liked the concept. I really liked when he's playing the game, the first-person scenes, where you can kind of see what he's seeing, and stuff like that. And just the whole idea of a video game like that, I mean, we've always talked about 3D, and I mean, now we're coming into that with, like, the Oculus Rift and stuff like that. I mean... This is what we predicted the future would be, and this played up on an angle of it. I like the angle. It was unique. I've never seen any movie like this before.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's definitely different. Except it's a little Lawnmower Man-ish. A little.
But it also, I mean, it doesn't claim to be straight horror. It's comedy horror, so I mean...
Yeah, to be fair.
I watched it when I was 10, 11, maybe 11, when it came out on DVD, VHS, or VHS obviously,
at the time,
yes.
Unless you were one of those rich sons of bitches who somehow got it a little bit earlier.
That Blockbuster and stuff. But I really liked it. The George S. Clinton did the soundtrack for it. There's a lot of bands that are on the actual soundtrack. White Zombie... Primus.
Yeah, Butthole Surfers.
Butthole Surfers. I mean, and it just, I don't know, I'm not the biggest Edward Furlong now, but back then
you were never Edward Furlong to begin with.
I was a fan of his back then, yeah. And, Frank Langella, of course, but just as I said, I mean, it also is a small movie, kinda, in the sense that there's not a big cast. I mean, there's sound.
It's really fucking
but
small.
But as far as, like, the main people that are actually playing in the movie, like, talking and having roles that keep, concurring. There's a handful of members. I think, 6, 7 people?
It's like 5. There's Edward Furlong, his best friend, the girl next door, his principal.
And the trickster.
That's right, the trickster. 6, then Frank Langella. That's it, 6 main members in the cast. The rest are just extras.
I like smaller movies like that, too. I mean,
It's nice, but they don't make use of them. There's so much dead space just going on. So much Edward Furlong just flopping about in his chair.
Oh, don't forget the dog.
And the dog, obviously. There's a lot. And Edward Furlong's ability to hide in very thin bushes in broad daylight from people and turn into a raccoon, apparently.
Yes.
There's quite literally a scene where it looks like he turned into a fucking raccoon. It's obviously not the case, but...
Well, when it comes down to, would you recommend someone watch this? We're talking
just
about, obviously...
for the premise alone, and the fact that it is relatively entertaining, even for how bad it is, it doesn't verge so much into the, so bad it's good, or so bad it's funny area, but it pushes near that. It pushes onto that border, for not necessarily crossing over. For that alone, I would say give it a chance. It's very different. It's definitely an idea that needs to be redone, especially today with modern technology.
That's something you were saying. You were saying that it could be a really good remake, like...
And I'm a guy who really hates remakes. I'm not a big fan of remakes.
But if the first story falls short, you want to see a better version of it,
It's a good it's a good premise. I don't think it was executed very well.
They can see what they did wrong and use it to build, a bigger, better story. Or,
very much.
And of course they could do tons of special effects. I mean, you gotta remember this in 94, and he looked like he lived in almost like the Batcave. I mean, he had all kinds of technical equipment in there.
Well, again, it was the 90s, so, back then the economy was really good, and you can afford houses that had a bat cave as an attic, and...
Very similar to Michael Keaton's Batcave, almost, though.
This kid was fucking loaded. For a kid who had everything except for a mom, he had it pretty...
Oh, that's a tagline right there. For the kid who had everything except a mom.
No, but I mean, you recommended it. I mean, it's not a bad recommendation. I'm going to say as a first-time viewer, and watching it at the age of 29 as opposed to the age of 9, like when you did, or close to the age of 9.
10.
Like 10. Yeah. It's worth a watch, at least one time. And I think, if you watch it with a group of people, and you go in with a mindset knowing it's an entertaining, but
it's a comedy horror. It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. It's not necessarily good, but at least it's entertaining, and it succeeds in that. So I'd have to say, go ahead and watch it, give it a chance. I don't know where you can get it. Is it available on DVD at this point? I mean...
It is on DVD, yes.
Okay, it's still available on DVD. It's still in production and whatnot. And that's a shame, too. Because
I imagine you could get it through Netflix, too. So.
Okay, is it? Okay, it should be available on Netflix. So, I mean, if you could get a hand on the copy, go ahead. I mean, it's one of those few movies from the 90s. In the 90s was really a dead time for horror films until Scream came out and kind of reinvigorated the genre a bit.
But it's also, I mean, you could categorize it almost as a slasher flick because... the murder scenes and stuff, but it's not a slasher flick. Really.
There's only really like one death. There's only one murder scene in the whole film. That's what it seems like. Like I said, there seems like a lot of dead space. It looked like it might have been like a short film that was extended, maybe like a episode for Tales of the Crypt that was somehow stretched into 90 minutes or however long this movie, like 86 minutes or something like that. And it was extended. It's like, well, what the fuck do we do? Well, just have Edward Furlong flop in his seat for a long time, and we'll do long shots of. Nothing going on. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot going on, but it was entertaining. And I more than anything, I keep saying that not a lot happened. Frank Langella. There should have been more Frank Langella in this.
Well, every movie needs Frank Langella.
Even the ones that don't have him in it need more Frank Langella.
Exactly. So, you just walk on, in the background and wave or something.
Hi, I'm Frank Langella.
Exactly. But I mean, it's 95 minutes, Yeah. It's not like it's running super long or anything like that.
Yeah, so unless you're dying from cancer or some sort of super age or something like that, don't go ahead. Don't be afraid of wasting the 95 minutes. It's worth the watch. And if you are, well, there's worse ways you can go out. It could be a movie without Frank Langella. Think about it.
Yes.
Yes, that's all Charles has to say because of my awful, awful things I have to say.
Keep bashing my movie.
He really likes this movie, but no, go ahead. It's a fun movie. If nothing else, it's a fun movie. I say I give it the green light. Go ahead and go watch it.
If you like those, I don't want to say B horror film, but if you like those lower budget type horror films, smaller sets and sci-fi-ish type stuff, check it out. It's worth a watch.
All right, and that's gonna do it for this episode of Two Guys, One Movie, Death, Death, Death
in 3D.
See you tomorrow.